Hello and welcome to the Wild Kitchen. Today we have an exciting show lined up for you all about sustainable eating and foraging. Humans were hunter-gatherers for 90,000 years, so it is in our nature to forage for food and practice. This practice is making a comeback. Earlier this week, our team met with renowned forager and chef Alyssa Grover to pick some wild garlic from Leewoods in Bristol. She is soon to release her new cookbook, From Forest to Fork, and show us how to make a delicious risotto recipe from the foraged ingredients. We also have an exclusive interview with Christabel Hamer, an award-winning organic farmer and chef. We will be asking her about sustainable farming practices and shopping for local produce. But before we show you that, Bobby and Greg have been out to ask the people of Bristol what they think sustainable food is and the impacts of choices we make as a consumer.
We're here on the Downs in Bristol and we're going to be asking the public
what they think about sustainable food and what veg is in season at the moment.
what comes to mind when you think of sustainable food.
My Uncle Des's garden used to grow everything.
Organic, vegetables and things locally sourced, really.
Not mass produced, so local food.
What do you do to eat sustainably?
Well, obviously foraging elderflower today, so I work at a restaurant locally. What we try to do a lot is use sort of foraged ingredients like venison that is shot in over the Forest of Dean. I think using stuff like that is far more sustainable than sort of factory farming, really.
I eat meat once a week. Like any type of meat, I just eat it once a week. So yeah.
And I go to an organic farm for my meats if I get meat.
Do you know what veg is currently in season?
Asparagus.
Lettuce and tomatoes and cucumber.
Well, we've got elderflower. Tomatoes are coming into season, so it's the end of asparagus season, which we're using a lot at the restaurant.
Summer fruits, strawberries.
What do you think is better for the environment? Tomatoes grown locally but in a greenhouse, or imported from like New Zealand?
Gonna go with grown locally.
Local.
Well, I would have assumed locally, but I mean, but I don't know if in a heated greenhouse. I don't know.
Grown locally.
Locally, yeah, but it's getting them, isn't it?
I definitely wouldn't say imported from New Zealand. There's obviously quite a lot of shipping costs.
Okay. Would you be surprised if I told you that it's actually imported from New Zealand?
Yeah, I would, because I thought there's a word for it, isn't there, where it comes over. It's got those miles. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yes, because when you think how far it is from New Zealand.
Do you know what's better for the environment, importing food by plane or by ship?
I'd probably say by plane.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously planes are faster, but use a lot more fuel, don't they? So I would have expected ships, but then
Probably by ship.
Ship.
I'd say ship.
Okay, and do you know how much better? Like how many times would you?
I'd say like 1.7 times better.
Okay, so would you be surprised if I told you it's actually 100 times better for the environment?
Yeah. Oh wow. Yeah.
Actually 100 times.
100
Is
better for the
it?
environment.
is it?
I was going to say 6.
I mean, obviously that's better. I mean, I would rather.
To be honest, I was going to say ship, but then I felt like after the last question it was going to be a trick again. Yeah.
All right, interview's complete. Big up.
Yeah,
Great
it was
teamwork.
all me. All the hard work.
Very interesting stuff there, and how lovely to hear from some foragers. So if you didn't catch that, it's in fact more sustainable to buy tomatoes shipped from New Zealand in our winter time than it would be to buy them from a heated greenhouse locally. Nearly 6 times more, in fact. It would still be more sustainable to buy tomatoes locally in the summer when they're in season and do not require heated greenhouses to be grown. However, this just shows that shopping locally does not always mean produce is more sustainable. It is important to consider how produce is grown, so make sure that you're shopping for food that's local and in season. Nectarines, apricots, new potatoes and spinach are just a few examples of in-season fruit and veg at the moment. If you go online and look up food seasonal calendars, there are plenty of resources to help you find what's in season. Now, we want to ask you at home some of the same questions we asked the public. We've created a poll to hear all of your thoughts on sustainable food and what you do to eat sustainably. Appearing now on the screen should be a QR code that you can scan with your mobile phone to fill out our poll. This will take you to a webpage where you can input your answers. There are a few questions on there, so let us know your thoughts. We'll keep the QR code in the corner of the screen, so please make sure you fill it out over the next few minutes. Whilst you answer that, we're going to interview Crystal Hamer, a chef and farmer on a sustainable farm. The farm that Krista works on was rewilded a decade ago and is now a popular tourist attraction. Krista cooks up tasty treats using ingredients grown on the farm, and she has seen visitor counts rise by 80% since the establishment of her restaurant on site. Hi Krista, can you hear me?
Hiya. Yeah,
How are you
I
doing,
can.
Krista?
Yeah, I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you. So, what practices does your farm have that make it more sustainable than traditional farms?
So at our farm, we kind of focus a lot on reducing fertilizer use. Fertilizer, it's expensive to produce, it's bad for the environment, it gives off a lot of carbon emissions, and we kind of move towards more applied techniques. So we kind of apply nutrients to the soil as and when they're needed, as opposed to just kind of blanketing the earth in fertilizer. We've also moved away from monocultures on our farms, and we try and grow multiple crops in one field, which is better for soil health, and it's also better for kind of pests and the pesticide use that we can limit through doing that.
Great, that's super interesting. So, why is it good to shop for seasonal veg?
So shopping for seasonal veg, it's really important. First of all, the quality of the produce that you get is going to be much, much higher because these veg have grown in like times and areas where they are supposed to, they've not been forced to. Shopping for the seasonal stuff, it reduces emissions as it no longer has to be shipped over from other countries, or other times, even if something is grown locally, it might be grown in a greenhouse or with, again, lots of fertilizers or kind of lots of additional elements which are also not great for the environment. So when you shop for seasonal veg, you're avoiding all of these kind of problems while still getting kind of higher quality and almost better value for money in a sense.
Amazing. So, where is the best place to buy seasonal veg?
I would say to primarily, if you can, to shop locally, to see if you can go to local greengrocers if that's an option for you in your area. Often those kind of smaller, like locally owned shops are the ones that will focus on getting this like locally sourced veg and seasonal stuff. However, some larger supermarkets do it. I think it's a good there. You can still get them from the larger corporations. However, it might be more important to take steps where you educate yourself on what is seasonal and what should you expect to see on shelves at a certain time of year, and then kind of actively choose to use those more rather than going for non-seasonal stuff.
Amazing. And what would you recommend to the public who want to eat more sustainably?
I would say, kind of going back to my last point, to again shop more locally if you can. Maybe see if you can support smaller businesses in your area. Again, I understand that is not an option for everyone. And it's kind of, to focus on this seasonal produce, because again, you will have better quality of food, and often it's cheaper because there's not been all these added elements where you have to, like fertilizer or shipping, that you have to take into account for.
Awesome. And so what can people do to reduce their food waste?
So the kind of first steps that I would say to reducing food waste is planning. Planning what you're going to be eating, being really conscious about it, being conscious about it when you buy these things. I know it's so easy to go into shops and you see a packet of blueberries and you go like, oh, that'll be great. And then if they don't get eaten during the week, that's just waste. So yeah, planning, and then maybe kind of being aware, batch cooking if you have the time, and then even if you can't get around to eating or like feeding everyone with food you bought, then putting that in the freezer and you can have it another time. Something I would also say is some food banks do accept fresh produce, not all, but some do, so it might be worth, if you've maybe got stuff that is still going to be in date, but for example you're going away, you're going on holiday, you've got a work trip or something, and you know you're not going to be able to eat it, it's worth always just checking if a local food bank around you is going to accept that produce, because you could always drop it off there.
Amazing, Chris. I wanted to ask one final question just to give our viewers at home sort of little help. What is your favourite sustainable meal to cook at the moment?
So what I've been cooking at the moment, I like to make a kind of twist on ratatouille. You can get the locally at our farm, like locally grown tomatoes and aubergines and courgettes, and it's a really like lovely dish, especially when the produce is really, really fresh. And it's a very summery dish as well, so I think coming into the summer is something that we'll be making a lot more.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Krista, for those really insightful answers. Now it's time to show you how our team got on earlier this week with forager and chef Alyssa Grover. Alyssa forages her ingredients here in Bristol to make delicious seasonal and local meals. Let's see how they got on.
Hi, I'm here in Paradise Bottom in Lee Woods to go foraging with foraging expert Alyssa Grover. What are we going to be up to today?
So we're going to take a walk around the woods and we're hoping to find some wild garlic, some stinging nettles, and hopefully cook with some of those ingredients later.
Amazing.
Yeah, we've got a great day for it, so should we get going?
Absolutely. Let's go.
Okay.
So, as you can see down here, or you might be able to smell it first, is we've got wild garlic. And wild garlic will typically grow in environments like this, near a stream, in a woodland, where it's got everything it needs to thrive.
And how would you identify this plant?
So, wild garlic grows from a really smooth stem to a really smooth leaf. And it's a flat leaf that also has a lot of blossoms. So, they're not in bloom right now, but these little buds here will have a white flower when they blossom. And also, you can smell it and you know from the habitat.
Okay. Should we pick some then?
I wouldn't say we should pick this wild garlic. It's not a great idea to forage from the past just in case dogs eat the loo on the way. But there are hillsides where there's a great abundance of wild garlic, which is probably a lot cleaner.
Okay, let's
so
go
we'll
then.
head that way now.
Yeah, it really does smell amazing.
Yeah, and as you can see, this is the kind of abundance I was talking about earlier.
Wow.
This whole hillside is covered in wild garlic.
So how are we going to pick this?
So you want to look for the smaller, younger leaves. So one like this maybe, as they're a lot less fibrous than the older leaves. And at the end of the season as well, some of these stems taste a little bit like spring onion if you're into that. But what you want to do is you want to pinch the leaves off or pinch the stem off and avoid pulling up the roots of the plant. As we want to keep the roots there so that they can continue to grow. Here. So these are stinging nettles. So for this one we're going to glove up, so I'll give you that. Stinging nettles are around pretty much all year round. And they grow in woodlands and they're pretty common. You can most likely tell what they look like because they grow everywhere and they've got really jagged leaves, like you can see just there.
Amazing. So which ones do we pick?
So as kind of with most plants, you want to try and pick the younger leaves.
Like this?
Yeah, that's perfect. So just those ones at the top there, and then just the leaves and the stems, because we don't want to uproot it, and that's it.
And what do we use these for?
So you can use stinging nettles for all types of things. So they've got anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties. So you could boil it down into a tea, or you could blanch it and use it in a pasta dough.
Lovely. Let's get foraging.
Let's do it.
amazing haul here.
Yeah, we've done really well. It's important though to remember to just take what we need, just to make sure we leave enough for everyone else who's foraging around. And also be confident in your positive idea of what you've got. If you're ever in doubt, it's always better to leave it.
With that, back to the kitchen.
A lovely film there from Alyssa and Abby. We just want to remind you that, like Alyssa, it's really important to do your research to forage safely and responsibly. Do check your local news. Just a few weeks ago, we saw a wild garlic in Marlborough, in our neighbouring county Wiltshire, was contaminated due to flooding and sewage leaks, and this left the risk of E. coli. Fortunately, though, the garlic should be safe for next year's harvest. Last year, we also saw the management of London's Epping Forest urge people not to forage for mushrooms, as they are vital to the health of the trees, water supply and the whole ecosystem. The authorities even said people continuing to forage these mushrooms could face prosecution. Foraging has been on the rise for the last few decades. We can see there were twice as many Google searches for foraging in 2019 compared to 2005, so it's important to leave enough for people and the environment alike. Alyssa also gave us some tips on how you can eat more sustainably and why you should. She recommends looking for suppliers and restaurants who are transparent about the life cycle of their produce. As we saw earlier, shopping locally helps to reduce your carbon footprint, as the food miles from transporting food across the globe are massively reduced. But it also boosts your community by supporting local suppliers while ultimately giving you better tasting, higher quality produce. But that's enough from me. Let's see what you folks have been saying on our poll. We have been asking you about how you got into sustainable food, your favourite sustainable meals, and where you think the industry could take us. So the first question we asked you was, are you into sustainable food, and if so, what got you into it? So I'll start off with my view actually. Well, I mean, obviously aside from doing a biology degree from the last 3 years, I've also been watching Clarkson's Farm. And for those of you who don't know, Jeremy Clarkson is a celebrity former motorist, but now turned farmer. And seeing the quality of the local food that he's managed to produce with his amazing team on his farm, combined with the food that they're producing on other farms around the area, and then bringing all the produce together, whether it's animal materials or plants or whatever, all together in a farm shop and a restaurant, I thought was really wholesome. But let's hear what you guys say. So one comment here says, I always loved gardening with my grandparents. My granddad's onions were a thing of beauty. They never wasted any of the veg that they grow. And it feels like a completely different way of eating nowadays, but I try to garden as much as possible. I'm sure that's something we can all relate to. Gardening at the moment is something that we're all trying to get into our life a bit more. Maybe more so in the past, but now it's more difficult to find the time to do that. And aside from its therapeutic qualities, it's really worth, as you'll see in our next film, putting the effort in to get the local produce. A few questions. I'm vegetarian. Does that count as sustainable food? Yeah, absolutely. You're reducing your carbon footprint massively. Let's move on to the next question then. What sustainable meals have you eaten recently? Well, I'll start with me again. Back at the restaurant I work at, which is just outside London, they have a venison forager. Now, basically means when the chefs decide they want venison on the menu, they ring up the forager and he will go and eliminate one of the local deer. And this is really important. Deer populations in the area I'm from, as they are across the UK, they need controlling. If there's too many deer, the effects knock on throughout the ecosystem, right down to the water supply in some cases. And that's because of their overgrazing on the brambles. So, and from the deer's perspective, overpopulation can cause them to become weak as they're all competing for the same materials. So controlling populations really is a good thing, and of course you can get free meat out of it at the same time, then you are doing something sustainable. A few ideas from you guys. You've got wild garlic risotto. That sounds pretty amazing. Maybe we'll see that coming up later on. Fresh salad, local butcher, locally sourced meats. That's the same kind of thing as I was talking about in my restaurant. Let's move on then to the final question. What could be done to make food more sustainable? My restaurant also makes an effort to use all the parts of the animals. So with the venison, for example, the steaks, the highly sought after parts of the animal, they'll make up the mains and the specials, but other parts of the animal which you might not expect to find on a menu and maybe historically would have just been chucked in the bin, they can be used to create pâtés and other things like croquettes for the starters. A comment here said aeroplane food could be more sustainable by focusing on non-perishable ingredients rather than processed foods, and that's quite interesting if you look at the like the natural foods that last longer, like potatoes can stay for like 6 months in a farm barn quite happily. So maybe if we base dishes on foods that naturally last longer rather than adding loads of preservatives and additives, that would be more sustainable for the planet. Another comment said eating like Hugh Fernie Whittingstall, no leftovers and all seasonal, all good for you. And that's really a nice one to finish on because that's the essence of what we're trying to do in this show. So some really great ideas there from all you folks watching. Let's now rejoin the action where Alyssa and Abby have made it back to the kitchen to cook up that lovely risotto.
Risotto, we're going to use some seasonal veg that we picked up from a sustainable shop, and we're also going to use our seasonal greens that we foraged for this morning. And yeah, it should be really good.
Awesome. So these have been washed and cleaned, so they're really nice and good to go, and now we've just got to prep our veg.
So first we're going to go in with the asparagus, and to separate the woody ends from the fresh tips at the top, you can just snap them, just like that, and that's the asparagus prepped.
Lovely.
Next up we're going to chop our onions, so we'll be right back after we've got that all chopped up for you. So we're going to finely chop the onion, and we're also going to prep our asparagus by just snapping off the end of the woody bits.
We're also going to chop it into like 2 centimetre sized pieces, little sticks as we're showing you here. So we've chopped up our asparagus, and what we've done is we've saved all our scraps so we can make stock out of them later.
Now we've got our pot on top oil just in the back there. We're going to blanch our veg that we've collected earlier. So this is going to soften up the veg, and also with the stinging nettles we're going to do this for a couple of minutes to get rid of those stingers. And the wild garlic will deep it for about 15 seconds. So we've fried off our asparagus until it's tender, and we're going to add that to the risotto when everything's cooked.
We've put our onions in to fry off, and now we're going to add the rice to toast it. So we've zested a lemon, and what we're going to do is we're going to reserve a little bit for topping, but the rest is going to go into the pan with the risotto.
So now that the risotto's been cooking for about half an hour, we're going to add the puree which we made earlier into the pan and mix it through, as well as the asparagus that we fried off. Now that we've mixed everything together and plated it up, it's time to try. After you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh yeah, that's really,
That's
really good.
so good.
That is delicious. The lemon as well.
It's unbelievable that we got all this flavour from just this morning. That
Fun
is
day as well.
delicious. And I'm going to move it to this side of the table.
Oh.
Thank you so much everyone for tuning in.
It's been so much fun having you on the show. Thank you so much for coming. You've taught us so much. I'm sure the audience is so grateful as well.
Thank you for having me. It's been amazing. Thank you very much. See you guys later.
Back to you in the studio.
Thank you, Alyssa and Abby. That looked delicious and I can't wait to try some. We hope you've enjoyed following along to that cooking segment and encourage you to check out more of Alyssa's delicious recipes in her new cookbook. We've been given a pre-release copy here and want to remind you that the official release date is 2 weeks from now on the 14th of June. Her book will retail for just $10.99 and includes 100 recipes. All are vegetarian and include tips on foraging for your ingredients. I've tried some of her recipes myself and they went down an absolute treat with my friends and family. She's currently working on her second book, which outlines the best practices for allotment and at-home gardening. Before we end the show, I want to give an excerpt from her book. Foraging is an immersive journey into nature's pantry. The ingredients are a reward of patience and keen observation. It demands respect for our natural world, taking only what is needed and allowing the forager to take in the present moment. The ancient practice of foraging fosters a deep connection between humans and the environment on which we depend. Now that's all we have lined up for you today at the Wild Kitchen. We hope that you've enjoyed watching along and are keen to get out into nature and forage your next meal. This brings us to the end of this Better Planet Live broadcast. Hopefully you have learned something new about rewilding and head out into your gardens to enjoy National Gardening Week. Also, make sure to try out some of the sustainable practices that the Eco Edit suggested that can make a big difference. We want to thank all of the contributors on today's show: Ed Druitt, Ollie Pink, Alyssa Grover and Christabel Hamer. We also want to give a special thank you to Ellie Mackay, whose guidance and expertise make this show possible. All of the people working on this broadcast today, including myself, are students at the University of Bristol, studying a Masters in Science Communication for a Better Planet, and we have been showcasing our variety of skills. We will be graduating soon and are looking to put our skills to use. If you want to support us, reach out or follow our journeys, our contact details and portfolios will be linked below. Thank you for watching and we wish you a wonderful rest of your day. Goodbye.